good morning, everyone. I know people are just getting settled in and we have people here online as well, so we'll give them a minute to join in, but in the interest of time, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am Bobby Garner-Coffey with the Innovative Learning Center. I'm happy here today in collaboration with our talent development team, my colleague Karen in the back, to present today's talk, AI Beyond ChatGPT. Our speaker today is going to be Knud Berthelsen. He's a professor of practice at Tulane University with joint appointments in the Strategy, Leadership, and Analytics minor, that's the SLAM minor, and the Connolly Alexander Institute for Data Science, which is CATES. Knud teaches courses on applied generative AI, Data 2150, artificial intelligence tools, the impact of AI, SLAM 3911, AI in society, and data analytics, SLAM 2030, Intro to Data Analytics, as well as workshops on how to work with AI. Prior to joining SLAM and CATES, he taught international business and management of new ventures in the A.B. Freeman School of Business. Without further delay, here's Knud.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. I very much enjoyed when we did a session in the fall for Professional Development Day in the same room, and I'm glad to be able to do this. So normally when I do this workshop on AI beyond ChatGPT, I start with sort of like a show of hands to see who knows about which tools, but we have a lot of people on Zoom today, so I made this little form instead. If you guys just take a minute just to go to knudberthelsen.com/beyond, and then we'll find a link to just a Google form, and we'll just a couple of quick questions there asking you how familiar you are with a couple of different AI tools. So feel free to do that. We'll look at the results a little bit later, and I'll let you know on surprise we're also going to use AI to analyze that data and see what we can find out about it. Okay, so why do we have a workshop on AI beyond ChatGPT? Right, so a little over 2 years after the introduction of ChatGPT, sort of marking the start of this new age of generative AI, the adoption rates are sort of off the charts. We can't compare with any sort of other technology to see how many people you sign up for this. And from almost all of them, it's ChatGPT, right? So we have data showing, for example, in September, we polled our students, about 850 students, 8 out of 10 used AI, and it was all ChatGPT. Right? Now, ChatGPT is good. Right, ChatGPT is a great sort of a jack of all trades. It's pretty good at pretty much everything you could do AI-wise these days. But I actually find that it's not the best at anything. So I wanted to make sure that I could sort of share a little bit more about some other tools that are significantly better than ChatGPT at one specific thing, or in some cases, more things like that. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's get started and look at some of these tools, right? So today, we're going to focus on 4 tools more than, sorry, I was going to mention a couple of the others. So my list of tools here, these are all AI tools that are not ChatGPT, but are as good as, excuse me, or better at something. The bold ones there. We're going to focus today on Claude. Claude is an AI, a model developed by a company called Anthropic. Right? We talk about Gemini, which is what Google currently calls all their, or the model, the brain behind their AI, which they have now gradually started integrating in other Google products. At least if you're a paying subscriber, you're a theme here. One company which is much smaller than Google is a startup called Perplexity. Perplexity is not actually an AI model. Perplexity is a tool that uses multiple different AI models to help you find what you're looking for. So it's an AI-powered search engine, and I can tell you that I do not search for anything on Google. I mean, I have a lot of good things to say about Google's AI stuff, unlike a lot of other people. They're a little behind the ball, but they're catching up, and it's really amazing what they can do. But for the sort of core business of search, I use Perplexity and some of these other tools as well. But it's a really good tool. We're going to focus on how we can go out there, search multiple sources, give you a summary, and then sort of inline references to absolutely everything so that you can confirm that it didn't actually make something up, right? which we know to be a problem with ChatGPT and some others as well. Now, in parentheses there, if we had more time, I would do a little bit more about these, but I just want to mention there's Grok by XAI, formerly known as Twitter. It's new. Grok 3 is basically on par with ChatGPT and the others, and its unique feature is its access to tweets or whatever they're called these days. So I use it, for example, if I want to know exactly what's going on right now, I can't believe anyone would have any interest in what's going on today anywhere in the world. I could use that and get a quick, let's say, sentiment analysis of what people are tweeting. When I want to find out something about someone, maybe I could use that to find out, get a profile of who they are based on what they're twittering about, stuff like that, right? So just going to mention that it's up there. We're not going to use it today, but it's up there. There's also the Chinese one, DeepSeek, right? It's free. It was one of the first, not really the first, to have what's called thinking, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And sort of, I think it's worth a mention, but also a warning. So for that one specifically, everything you do with that one does go to servers in China, right? So it's sort of the one I sort of tell people to be the most concerned about, if you will, for that purpose. And then, yeah, I'm from Norway. It's in Europe. I feel like I should mention some European things. So there's Mistral, right? It's French, which is why their sort of consumer-facing tool is called the Chat. It's the Chat. And again, it does roughly what the others do, right? It has most of the normal bells and whistles at this point. It can do web search. There's got like a little canvas or something. You can do something next to the thing. You can run some code. It's good. I think they're interesting because a lot of what I do ends up, I think, sort of workflow wise. I will start by using probably all of these, and then I end up putting everything into this last tool here called NotebookLM by Google, which is the most unique of these tools. And it has the benefit that you can add your own sources to it, which could, for example, be the outputs for the other. So quite often I'm interested in sort of different points of view, knowing that each one of these up there have been trained on different enormous data sets by different people. And that's why I like including both the Musk, the China, and the French as well in there, just to get a couple of different. Okay, also just briefly want to sow a little seed, some of you at least. If you're interested in this, I teach 2 courses. AI Society, we discuss sort of the impact of all of this, right? What's going on. And AI tools, you basically get really, really good at using all these tools over either a full semester or a month online. And since I believe our audience today is faculty and staff, just want to point out that if you have a tuition waiver, this is an excellent course. It will take you about roughly your lunch break for the month of June and about an hour at night. And then you will become an AI expert. So just want to mention that in case you think of it. Let's see. There we go. Okay, 3 concepts that we just need to mention before we look at the actual tool, right? Number 1 is context window. You can think of it as attention span, operating memory, short-term memory, right? All these AI tools have enormous sets of data that they were trained on, and they now have a lot of knowledge, if you will, in them, a lot more than we could ever get. But they're limited by how much they can sort of keep in their head at the same time during a conversation, a chat, for example, right? This used to be a huge problem. If you remember when you started using the first ChatGPT, its context window was roughly 10 to 12 pages, I think, of text, something like that, right? So I remember I put a syllabus in and I wanted to analyze it, and it was really good to begin with, like 2 or 3 messages in, it was completely wrong, because by then, the beginning of the syllabus and conversation had left its context window, and it had no clue why we were having this conversation, and it was working with only the bottom half of it, right? ChatGPT has traditionally been late to the game on expanding this context window. The first one to expand it significantly was Claude. They got up to where they still are now, which is 200,000 tokens. But let's talk about pages. It's 600 pages of text, roughly, right? Which is really good. It's a pretty long book you can put in there, and you will be able to work with that, right? However, I mean, ChatGPT is caught up. It's roughly around that for most of them now. Gemini was like, hold my beer, and it has 2 million, which is 6,000 pages. Alright, so when you use Gemini, you can put 6,000 pages of text equivalent in there and it can keep track of that, okay? Now let's talk about NotebookLM. When you use NotebookLM, even the free version, you can put in 50 sources, which could be a PDF or a text, whatever it is. Each one of those can be 2,000 pages long. Alright, so we're at 2,000 times 50. If you actually subscribe for $10 a month, or $20, $10 if you have a .edu email, I think. It's 300, right? So when I work with NotebookLM, I can put into 300 2,000 page long documents. And when I say document, I don't really mean just document. I can also just put, for example, a recording of this meeting that we're having here as an audio file. It will instantly convert it to a text transcript and instantly know it. And be able to compare it with all the others, right? These are things that ChatGPT, current version at least, will not do. Right? These are very useful things. So that's context window. Next one is thinking. I'm sure we've all had some good advice at some point from someone who said, please think before you speak. It turns out they were right. Right? So until recently, whenever we used an AI, what happened was we gave it whatever our prompt was, a question, for example, and then it immediately started answering, right? And its thinking and its speaking was the same, right? Then, about 6 months ago, new things started happening when there was some developers realized that all these AI models got significantly better if you put a thinking process in first. So now, for most of these tools, I'll say something, it will then think, this user wants to do this. I know the best ways to do this is this. I should keep this in mind and this in mind, and I should probably do it in this order. Okay, I'm ready, let's do it. And then it does it, right? And if that sounds like a human, it's true. It sounds really weird. I'll show you some of these. Some of them are very human-like, and when you see their inner monologue, but it's made them all much. Third one, I just call it research because it has a lot of different names. So a lot of these AI things. Couple of problems. One, a lot of companies will have the same thing, but call it by a different name. And a lot of companies will use the same name for different things, right? But when I say research, I mean that instead of doing a simple prompt where you say, ChatGPT, what is this? Or like, tell me about this, whatever it is, right? That's you doing a question and it's giving you an answer. With research, I mean, I want you to research this topic. And then the AI will, with some agencies called agentic AI by most people, will go out, first it will think, right? Then it will go out and find a whole bunch of sources on the internet, could be hundreds. It will read those, it will think again, go find more, back and forth a couple of times, and then it will sort of summarize everything in a very neat report, 10, 15, sometimes 20 pages long, with references, right? Yes. Because they're all linked, they're all online, you should click and check it, right? So these are the three concepts to keep in mind as we're using.
Sorry, they say the audio is not great.
Hopefully the audio is better now, it sounds different to me at least, so. Let's go do this. So let's start with Claude, right? So Claude, a company called Anthropic, is to me, the easiest thing I can describe is it's my daily driver. And for a lot of us who spend a lot of time using AI tools, this is the one we end up using. Until recently, it didn't actually have a web search function. It does now. So there's really very few things that I don't go first to Claude for. Now let's take a brief look here at what we got for these. Let's see, forms, we definitely put it in here. Tech Week rework of AI survey. Okay, I got 99 responses. And we'll see here, expecting things we'll see for all of these normally. People are mostly sort of have used ChatGPT, but probably not paid for it. And then for all of these others here, mostly unfamiliar, right? And this is interesting, and we can see a bunch of stuff here, but let's use AI instead. So I'm gonna go over here, the sheets, create new spreadsheet. Here we go. It's hard to do this sideways. I'm gonna send file. I think I'm gonna look at the other screen here. Where am I going? There's download. Go to Claude. Give it this. Sit here. There we go. Make sure that it does extended thinking, right, for other things. All right, and you'll notice we're using your Claude 3.7 Sonnet, that's their latest, greatest model. And let's just do this simple, let's see, normalize, and visualize this data. And now we'll see here is Claude's gonna think, actually show you thinking. You can see, okay, I need to do this, here's how I'm gonna do it, let's start. To do it, and you can see what it does right now is it wrote and it's running code to analyze this data. And it creates what's called an artifact on this side. You might know it from ChatGPT as a canvas, sort of the same thing, right? So we now have like one channel in which we're talking to it, and then we can sort of see its work on the other side. And you can see here it's writing code, and once that code is done, we'll be able to see a visualization of it. Right. So this is one of the things that Claude just does very, very well. Another thing it does very, very well is OCR, well, character recognition, right? It recognizes if you give it a PDF, not just the text, but also the images in the PDF, for example. And then one of my favorite parts of it is that it has a very good projects function, which is sort of similar to ChatGPT's custom GPTs in some ways. It's sort of mostly better. We can see here we now have analysis of 99 responses, so that's good. And we can see the tabularity here, frequency, And if we wanted to spend more time on this, we could just really go to town and just discuss things with it. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, could you segment it on this? What's most interesting here? If you know what you're asking for, you can ask for it. And as I tell my students, if you don't know what to ask for, you just ask what to ask for, and it will help you with that too, right? It's like, what are some good ways of looking at this? Oh, cool, let's try that, right? Now, let's see if I can get up here. So I mentioned the projects. That angle on this, there we go. So I make, for each one of the courses I teach, I make a co-professor. I give it my syllabus, a bunch of texts, give the transcript of class meetings. So I didn't teach this, took this one last time in the fall, but I'm going to teach it now in the summer, so you know it's a summer course, right? So here, since it already knows all this stuff, all I had to do when I started thinking about this was I said, draft a plan for how I can teach a summer version online, 20 days, 1.5 hours. I want to split it into 45 minutes live and 45 minutes async, right? So here we go. It gives us a whole thing about that, including it knows my teaching philosophy because it has my syllabus, right? And it says, how about this? Right? Good start. And I say, actually, I want like the first half to be live and we do things together in class, second half lecture and demonstrate where you can be, or you can watch it later if that's easier, and then we go that way. And you can see that here's like, okay, reimagine course structure with flipped classroom approach. This is its actual thinking. This is its output. And here we go, right? And what I really like about working in a project, I'm not doing this now because technically this is the professor for last fall, and I want to make a new one for this, but I could tell it to put whatever we're working on in an artifact, and there's a little button there that says add to knowledge. And the second I click that button, it is now in its knowledge, so it knows about this, right? So let's say I decided this is good, let's go for it. Add this to knowledge. Now this is the plan for the summer. And then I could do a new chat or continue on the same one. And I could say things like, great, draft an email to send to faculty and staff with tuition waivers about why they should take this course, right? And it would do this, and my experience having used Claude a lot, it would do it very, very accurately. Like significantly higher accuracy than myself. Right? Okay, so that's the Claude. Let me make sure you can also do silly things, but not because they are silly, but because to me they show a lot of things. So I have made a lot of like snake games, and then in this case for kids, so more unicorn, more poop. And you will right as you watch, you'll see all these. Something's wrong on this computer, but no, you'll see all the code, and then you will see. You'll play the game, right? And then you're like, oh, more like this. Actually, no, it's too fast. Slow it down. Add more apples, right? And you can see it's doing this live, and then right. So I'm not saying most of you have any sort of work functions where you need to make games all the time, but you can see if it can do that. And the only thing that I know about code, because I'm not a coder, is it has to be accurate, right? If you write code and there's like one comma that's off, it won't run. So to me, the fact that it can do this with an accuracy that it works, right? And Claude is sort of the preferred tool for developers these days, tells me that I can trust the other stuff. Now, I'm sure there's questions, but just since we have so many people, I'm going to try to just do this first and then make sure we have plenty of time for questions after that. Okay. So next up, Google's Gemini. Right? So Gemini, first of all, Google incredibly good at building AI at this point. And incredibly bad at letting people know about it. So currently, like last week, beginning of last week, they launched Gemini 2.5. It crushed all the other LLMs on all sort of benchmarks. It is the smartest LLM now. You probably haven't heard of it because we're all too busy making like Studio Ghibli images of ourselves on ChatGPT, right? So while this came out and nothing sort of happened for most people because we don't know about Gemini, I saw a tweet by Sam Altman said that when we first launched ChatGPT, we got 1 million users in the first 5 days. And he said, we got 1 million users last hour, right? So ChatGPT now has 500 million weekly active users, of which 20 million are paid subscribers, which is still a lot of money on a sort of recurring basis, right? But you know, enough about that. Let's talk about Gemini, right? So Gemini comes in a couple of flavors. So Gemini is two things. It is the brain, if you will, is the model, but it's also the sort of consumer-facing version of the same. So you can go to gemini.google.com and get the consumer version of this, which at least finally now they have started letting free users get a couple of good models up here, right? So I think even if you go there now with any Gmail account and you're not paying anything, I think you will get deep research and certainly 2.0 flush, and I think you might get a couple of these 2.5 as well, and you get to use, I don't know, 5 messages or something like that. And you can see sort of familiar, does a lot of the same things that ChatGPT does, but it has also now expanded in a couple of other ways. I have it on my phone, and it's at times I've demonstrated more, but it actually now has vision. You can see what you're doing. It's pretty crazy. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a little deep research. I'm going to start here. I'm going to do a couple of others as well, but let's demonstrate this first, right? So let's see. Am I too close? This one? Okay, so I'm saying here that, you know, this is true, by the way, I'm a big fan of free trade, always have been, and it seems to most people are not, and different people are for it and against it now than what used to be, but still, I said I want this, I said, okay, I'm gonna do this. See, here is this research plan, and I'm just gonna say, yeah, sure, do that. It only works except when you have a big typo in there. The other day, I tried to find out dining options at the Denver airports, and I wrote diving. I have a 15-page report that tells me there are no scuba gear shops or any diving instructions at the Denver airports. Which I thought was funny, but also a little, like, really? Like, you're supposed to understand the context here, like, why would I be looking for that, right? So anyways, you can see here, it's thinking. It's researching, literally reading all these pages here, right? It's crazy. And then it's going back, and we can see, so we'll keep doing this, and the end result will be a report and a button, 2 buttons actually. I can choose for it to make it what's called an audio overview, which is a podcast episode with 2 fake humans discussing it, which is remarkably useful in some cases when I have a lot of dense stuff, a lot of just large files and stuff, both for me, but even more so for students. Having like a 15-minute episode of someone talking about it first is a really good way to sort of get an interest in this topic before you decide where to go after that. The other one is you can export it to Google Docs, right? And once you do that, you can save it as a PDF. Once you have it as a PDF, you can put it anywhere, right? So it's really good tools for that. Let me see.
Is that the paid version that you have right there?
This is, I mean, mine is pink, says advanced up there, but this is included, a couple of these, I believe, for the free ones as well. And also the next tool that we'll discuss has one, and Grok. Grok is currently free with a Twitter account, and it also makes reports like this.
And I'm sorry, what was the thing where you make that conversation?
Can you repeat the question for online when they ask a question?
Yes, I'll try to remember that. What was
the Ledley for the conversation, to make the conversation, what was it?
Oh, it's called audio overview, right?
Audio
So yeah, anywhere
Thank you.
you see when you're using anything Gemini, and there's a button that says audio overview. If you click that, it will make a podcast episode of 2 people talking about whatever it is. So let's see, it's still working on this, and while it does that, let me show you this. This is sort of the secret. All right, the other one is consumer facing. This is for developers, but it is open for anyone with a Gmail account, and it's unlimited use for free. aistudio.google.com. You can go in there and you can do a couple of things. The one is you can try all of their models. You can choose which ones they have here. By the way, they were the first ones to come up with a model that would also natively generate images like GPT-4o now, but they forgot to tell anyone, so no one knows about that. But here's their most intelligent one. They had a couple of others. One of my favorite things, if you really care, is the compare option. You click this one and then you choose 2 models, so give it the same prompt, and you'll get a side-by-side showing how they do that, right? But I'm more interested in a couple of other things. One is, again, 2 million token context, so you can put like video and audio and stuff in here, right? But again, this is a free service for developers. This does not come with the data privacy of sort of the other ones that you're paying for, right? So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what to put up. Like, I really do not think they're going to share it or use it for anything, but they have not sort of specifically said that they will not, because this is not really a consumer facing tool. The other one is that this thing here that previews what we will all have from all of these very soon. Okay, so we are used to having ChatGPT sort of like, think of it as packages back and forth, right? I say something, it says something, and we go back and forth. But Google, now their TPUs, as they're called, the hardware, it's so fast that it can be a live stream in both directions, right? And this is what this is. So you can go here on the stream real time. You click talk to Gemini, it will use your microphone and you can just sort of talk to it. You know, we can do that on some of the others. If you do show Gemini, it'll pull up your camera, which also works on your phone, by the way. Right? And if you do share your screen, it now will share, we'll see whatever you're seeing on the screen. And then you can decide if you wanted to talk to you about this or write to you about it. Now let's see, it doesn't always work because we're on Zoom with sound and all that, but let's try. Let's see here. Hey, can you hear me? Hello, Gemini, are you there?
I think there was a request.
There was a request, right? Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Top left. Oh, here we go. See. Oh, this one, try it again. Okay, entire screen. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How can I help you?
Oh, yes, I can hear. Okay, we can't hear it, but that's not really a problem. We can just go
Okay,
back and
it
forth.
seems like you're having some audio
Yeah, I
issues.
think our
Is there
sound
anything
on.
I can
That's
do
okay.
to
You
help
just
you
keep talking.
troubleshoot
What are you
that?
seeing here, Google? How would you, can you describe this, this art form, this image, what's in
The
it,
image
and some symbolism?
Okay. In the image,
Here.
there's a central figure that appears to be a
Yeah.
woman with robotic or mechanical
Oh,
parts.
it's not working today.
She has wings, and she's
This
holding a
normally
staff
works, and
with a
it's kind of fun, and
complex.
you get the voice on it too. Oh, here we go. It's a little slower when it's writing, I guess. Yeah, so it says, okay, there's a central figure, take on this, on. So the thing is, they can see anything that we see, right? Which is crazy, and my use case, actually, I'm gonna stop because it thinks I'm talking to it. My use case for this, for a lot of things, our report is ready, by the way, is that, let's say I'm doing something on a website I'm not familiar with, or even using software I haven't used for a while, let's say Photoshop. I'll put this on, share my screen and say like, well, how do I do this again? I'll be like, oh, go to this menu. It's like, okay, yeah, you're in the right menu now. What do I do next? Oh, go here. Oh, no, you did wrong, do the other one, right? So now you have an AI that in real time is seeing what you wanted to see and can communicate with you about that, right? So this might have been a little sort of klutzy, but think about that, we're getting, like, actually, it rolled out in my Pixel 9 phone or whatever it is today, so I now have it on my phone, I just press one button and it will see whatever I'm showing it and talk about it, right? This is sort of where AI is heading in the practical area. Okay, so here we have this one here. We can generate an audio overview, but we'll save that. Copy it, we're gonna export it to docs. And then we're gonna move on, because we have one report now. Make sure that I copy my prompt here. Yeah. Let's do some more of these now. So we're now gonna go to, let's see, Perplexity, right? Yes, Perplexity, here we are. Okay, so Perplexity. I'm gonna just get this started while I talk. I said I want deep research. Okay, notice that, spelling errors do not really matter because they understand anyway. Here's one of the things I really like about Perplexity, and I like a lot of things about it. Not only can I say go out and look for some stuff, but I can specify either like yes, do it all, or I can turn off academic and social, turn off and on. Right, so I can either exclude them or include them. So quite often for this, regardless of the topic, I would be interested in maybe 3 reports, right? I'm gonna do one here now. Just a general one here. By the way, I could have uploaded, let's say where I'm still working on my syllabus, I can upload that here, right? So I can give it more context as well. And if there's something I do frequently, same as in ChatGPT and in Claude, I can create a project that has like shared knowledge on this. So while I talk, let's do this now. So we'll see here that it'll start thinking and doing sort of similar like the other one on that, right? And what it actually does, it has a mixture of models that you can choose from. Either you just, most people just put it on auto, but if you want to, you can say, I want you to use the DeepSeek thinker, right? Or the OpenAI thinker or the Claude thinker. And then you specify which of the many AI tools to use for its sort of holistic thinking, if you will. And then it will go out and do things like this. I mean, this takes up to 30 minutes to thoroughly research and analyze and reflect, right? So you can see, first it's thinking, then it's deciding on search result or terms, and it does that, it's reading these different sites, sort of similar again. This will end up with a report with a nice little button, export, you can get it straight into a PDF, which is what we're gonna do, so we can put it into Notebook.
So it takes on the right side, like before, wasn't it what we had actually recently? Before we saw this screen,
Before we saw that screen, that was just the front page of it. Yeah, so let's see, it's doing this here, so this is Perplexity. It is by far the best search tool now, if your primary thing is like, I need to do something that I hoped Google would do for me, right? So not only does it do these longer ones, but just like quick search results as well. If you register for free, just you connect to the Google account, you get 3 daily pro searches, which are the ones using like the smartest brains, which to be fair, you don't even always need that. It's already the basic level, plenty smart to do basic like find things on the internet for me and tell me about them, making sure that they're inline references, right? And you also get 3 of these reports per day, right? Now, if you pay, you get more, right? More brains, more time. So you can see currently it's up to 37 sources, 27 tasks, and oh, here we go. It's writing the report. Its first report. Right now, I'm gonna try to save questions for after, just to make sure that we don't run out of time for any of these things, just so you know. But we have this one here. And then I think we're ready to move on to NotebookLM. Just gonna wait for it to finish writing this, I can download it. Alright, and this is again free, right? You can use this. Okay, it keeps writing. So let me go over to NotebookLM then. So NotebookLM, notebooklm.google.com is how you get to it. Again, anyone with a Gmail has a free version of this. It's you can put 50 different sources in there. They make no promises about sort of the safety of the information, except it's still Google. It's not like just disappearing somewhere. But I have the plus version, which allows me to put anything in there and feel safe about it. And here's a couple of things. So number one use for this is you just basically drop a bunch of stuff in it. PDFs, text files, whatever you have, right? You can, if you use Google's Drive, you can connect it directly to Google Docs and Slides, which is useful in some cases for me. I will have the documents there explaining what's going on. And then I can set it to sync so that it uses the most recent version of it, so it's not sort of statically in there. You can put a website in there. It could be a long page on the Tulane website, right? Or it could be a Wikipedia article. It could be whatever you want, but it's a page, one page at a time, right? And you can add a YouTube video. Currently, in this version, when you put a YouTube video link in there, it actually what it does, it takes like the text transcript that has been automatically generated of it. But in AI Studio, it's already up to now actually watching it for you. It'll watch like every 30 seconds or something like that, and can describe what's in it. Well, and then you can also just dump text right in here, copy and paste, but most of the time, you upload sources like that. Okay, new function last week, discover sources. Right, so until now, what I've been saying about NotebookLM is that it's different than all the others because it only works with stuff you give it, which is still true, but you can give it stuff you don't have now. Right, so you can't just sort of give it, you know, like in my case, you know, for my class on AI and society, we had a variety of both sort of articles, research, and popular media stuff about this topic. This was the impact of AI on the environment, right? And we just dumped 50 or so of these in there, and then we could start sort of discussing what does one agree on, what are the sort of things that are disagreement on, how could you read this from different points of view, give us a list of things we need to discuss, all these other things, right? But let's start by discovering some sources over here. You can see, let me just put the same thing in here and see what it gives me, right? So it is now looking for sources. We got a bunch of stuff in here. Let's just add them, right? We have 7 sources in here, so this is enough for us to get started seeing here. There are 3 sort of segments of this page. On the left, you will always see your sources, and you can add more, right? So it pulls in, and what it's doing, you see like a little circle there now, it's transcribing everything into text and sort of internalizing it, if you will, right? So if we go into one of these now, which could have been an audio file, right? But let's see here. Here, this is whatever the website was, and it's giving a source guide. This is now a summary of it. There's some keywords, right? And in the meantime, over here, it has now written a summary of everything that is in here, right? And we have the option to create this audio overview. There's a general one, or we can customize it. Like, give me a short one targeting students for the purpose of preparing them to discuss this, for example, right? Or another one for one of the courses, it's like, be really critical about how students use AI, assume they're always cheating. We got a really good one out of that one too. There are four sort of like boxed things here, these are prepared reports, if you will, that you can ask for. So a briefing doc will sort of be that, sort of summary of main points and some of these things. A timeline is often useful, really impressive, gets everything by date, FAQs and a study guide. And then a new option, a couple of weeks ago, a mind map, for those of you who are visual learners, alright? So let's put some more stuff in here now, so first. Let's go back to this one here, we wrote this report. And export it to PDF. Okay, and then, let's see, did I already export this PDF? I don't think I did, no, so let me do this. Download. PDF, I mean, I could have just added it from the Google files, but let's just do it like this. Okay, so back in here. Add sources. Choose file. File the download, right, so these should be these two. Okay, so you can see they're now being added, they're PDFs. Okay, we have a summary of all this, that's very nice.
Does it know that that's AI generated?
It doesn't by default know it, I mean, in some cases, let's say I copy and paste like a full discussion from ChatGPT or like a response that'd be good, sure, I can do that for you, here you go, then maybe you would know it, but I don't know. Get a mind map, study guide, briefing doc, FAQ timeline, and then let's do, let's see. Yeah, oh, oof, that's well, for a long time. Okay, start with the visual here then. Tariffs and trade. Okay, definition, arguments for, arguments against, types, non-tariff, economic concepts, US tariff policies, political aspects, global. Okay. So for each one of these now, I can press the little arrow to go further. Alright, so I don't know, let's go with these then, right? These are arguments for tariffs, right? For each one of these now. You can click into one of them. Let's see here, yeah, let's go with this one here. And when you click on it, it starts in the chat here, it says discuss this in the context of this. And it's doing this now, but it's only pulling from our sources. Right, so everything it says here, for, if I click that, it will take me to source number 4 and show me where it says so. Right, which is, for me at least, pretty mind-blowing and incredibly useful, right? So let's go close this and see. So here, these are frequently asked questions about tariffs. Got that. Back to the other one. Timeline, historical context, 1789. Moving up here, see how far we got. Okay, here we got actually cast of characters. Right, we have here Dina Galara, Trump, Ricardo, Smith, Rob Cohen. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Commenters on Reddit, various usernames, right? Because I had that, I didn't say like no social media, and social media is Reddit when it comes to the Perplexity, that's where it finds most stuff like that. Which is really useful sometimes, by the way, but you know, good to know. Let's see. Here we have a study guide, key concepts. Short answer quiz, that's useful too. There's my mouse here, no, there you go. Answer key for that, by the way. Essay format questions. If you're faculty, you could be thinking like, ooh, this could be useful, okay. But also keep in mind like, oh, students can see this too, oh, that's interesting, right? We'll talk about that. And then here we have a briefing document. Got the dates, some stuff, we got some sources, a summary. Some things, and they're all in here. And the way I often use this when I collaborate with others is, you know, you can share it with others so that we can sort of work in this here together. Yes.
The question from the audience is, why does it use Reddit?
So it's specifically Perplexity, when you do the setting, like look for social media, I guess it's just Reddit is very SEO optimized. It tends to be mostly Reddit where it finds sort of discussions about whatever it is. So it's not exclusive to Reddit, but again, that's Perplexity. So in this case, it's in here because one or two of these sources came from there and it was mostly Reddit, right? Okay. So. Let's see here now. Okay, so we're not gonna cover these others, but sort of you can sort of imagine my work stream here normally would be that I would also want to hear what they have to say. I want more sources in there. Said I can put up to 300 up there, which is very useful. And this brings us to the next point here, which is students, right? So especially those who are faculty might be thinking, uh-oh, really? Are all my students using this stuff? And I just didn't know. This is interesting, right? So you might think that, and you would be wrong, because it turns out, going into details here, but basically, all of our students, this year's survey, we only have 285 respondents so far in this one, so it's preliminary data, but you can see here, extremely familiar and very familiar with ChatGPT, right? And then for all these others, it's like not familiar, not familiar, not familiar, not familiar, right? So about half the students are familiar at all with Copilot and Gemini and Meta AI, right? Those are owned by three of the biggest companies in the whole world that has like direct lines into their computers, and only half of them have managed to notice that this thing exists. So someone's not doing a great job here, right? But you can see that they will. For these others that don't have similar owners, it's like 70% of students have never heard of them. Right? I did so. 33% of students are extremely familiar with ChatGPT. 3% are with NotebookLM. I'm pretty sure they're all my students. There are fewer of them than the students that I know use it. So, right? Not the best data point, yeah. But story is the same, right? So currently students are like blissfully unaware, I guess, of this whole thing. They all use ChatGPT. Whenever you talk to a student about like AI, in their head you're talking about ChatGPT, right? And it's not just them, right? It's for pretty much everyone else. As we saw briefly from our little survey of us as well. Okay, last slide I promised before we get into more questions and want me to demonstrate something else. So same as before, right? We have the tools here. I really do think that you should all try to use Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, and NotebookLM. There are free versions of all of them, right? And I also generally do think people should pay for AI tools because they are better and safer. And if you don't get $20 a month out of a magical tool like this, don't think the tool is the problem. Okay? Courses, online summer, normal in fall. The SLAM ones typically fill up with SLAM students, but plenty of room in the others and everything for the summer, and it's online and all that, so let me know if you're interested. The student survey, anyone, if you're faculty, if you could please just mention it briefly to your students, they will find it on top of their Canvas thing with a link to go in there. I would really like to get at least 850 students like we had in the fall. We have about 300 or so this morning, so that would be fantastic. And then also, as part of Tech Week, there is a link for a post workshop survey that also goes to Kate, or we like to, look at data. That's sort of what we do there, which you can also get to from this QR code. This is pretty good on time, so I will take some questions. Yes.
Can you actually upload data and make it analyze that data? Number one question. And related question, can it read it also in other languages?
Yes, to both. So number one, you can, the question is, can you upload data? Yes. So ChatGPT is actually the best when it comes to uploading. It will take pretty much any file format, and one of my favorite things to use it for is to change it to a different format. Right, so you can upload, for example, the other day I uploaded a CSV file of data, and I asked it to give me a Word document down, because then I could save that as a PDF and put it in somewhere else if it doesn't take CSV, right? So generally, you can upload to all of these. at least PDF, text, CSV, some of these things. And most of these tools now will be able to write and run Python to analyze it. Right, so it's one of the areas for ChatGPT is possibly still best with its code interpreter. But I think Claude, with the one I showed you earlier, is getting there. I think they might be sort of equally good for that now. As for language, actually just a week or two ago did a whole workshop here about AI's impact on language education. And I demonstrated a bunch of stuff there. All of these are 100% fluent in all languages. Spoken, written, they will write them, they will talk back to you, they can translate between them. I saw someone recently had an AI do a fresh translation of the Odyssey and then shows 3 different translations to a whole bunch of people who vote on which one they liked the best, and the winner was the AI. Pretty crazy. But yeah, and if we had more time, I love doing these fun demos. Like I can speak to it in 3 languages, it can return in other languages, and it's incredibly good. Because remember, at the end of the day, all these AI tools, they are able to understand, manipulate, and create any combination of 1 and 0. Right? So anything that's digital, if it's text, if it's audio, if it's video, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's just a whole bunch of 1s and 0s, and the AIs can read all of them and write all of them however they please. We have a question for Zoom, maybe?
What do you have to say about Copilot? It's the one Tulane provides us access to their university accounts. There's 2 other questions.
Okay, so Copilot unfortunately is basically bringing a knife to a gunfight. So even though they introduced on Friday for Microsoft 50th birthday, they introduced a host of sort of new functions. It's still, so someone described it as a time machine that will bring you back to ChatGPT a year or 2 ago. Right? So I'm not including it here, it's not best at anything. And to make matters worse, there are 2 versions of it. There's the personal version, which actually gets all these new things, and then there's like 365 corporate version that we have, it does not have any of them. So I'm afraid cannot say much good about Copilot. Apologies to anyone involved. Yes.
So I don't know if it was Perplexity or Notebook, but one of them, when you were analyzing it, it had tasks. Is that a task for it or a task for like you, the reader, to go and do things about?
Those are tasks for it. It's part of like its inner monologue. It's like, these are my sources, now I'm gonna do this.
Gotcha.
And if we clicked into it, you could see like task by task incredibly fast. How it's like, okay, I read this, now I need to do this. Now I'm gonna read this, now I'm gonna do that.
Wait, I just asked Gemini a question and then I asked the same exact question for Perplexity and I got very different answers. So how would you either tell your students or like us as your students right now to like navigate those inconsistencies with the results of the data?
Right, so first of all, I try to make sure that we give context, and similarly, like not, because I always use more than 1 tool. Right, so if it's a good start, use 2, I would use 3 or even more for some of these things, make sure I give the same context and know like, who am I, why am I looking for this, what is my level of knowledge about it, some of these things, right? So it's like, I am a student at Tulane, I'm taking these courses, I'm trying to understand how this thing works, and then do that in multiple ones. And then again, when it's something I really care about, or I need to go deeper in, I would put it into, for example, NotebookLM for that, right? Which reminds me, thanks for asking, so for some of these tools, you can give it more context by telling you more about yourself, including, I think for Gemini, you can do that now, and you can ask it to remember some things about you and all that, and others you can't.
I was gonna ask, so when you were using Perplexity, which is powered by search engine, is it using keywords? Because I noticed the sources that it was coming up with seem to be like like along with like maybe what people would search in this moment, the Terraform. So is it driven by what people are searching for in their keyword search, and that's how they're ranking the sources that are available?
I think to more, yes, more so with Perplexity than with the others, it's sort of more like Google in the sense that it understands what you say in clear text, like you're saying, I'm trying to figure out more about this and this, and then it decides, okay, these are the key search terms I should be using, and it uses a couple of those, it analyzes the results, and then it comes up with new ones. But at the end of the day, it basically uses Google for you, if you will, right? And then summarizes that.
Yeah.
So there's this bit of It's a little different than the others. I think, for example, now that Claude has a search function, a web search function, it will sort of think in a different and probably more intelligent way about that, and not necessarily just use search terms to get to the content, right? But what's really made these deep research tools so much better recently is that it can go multiple turns now. It used to be that the first one that was released was Gemini Deep Research, and it would just search once, read 50 things, write report, right? Even if what it read should have indicated that it needed to look for something else, right? But now it will do multiple rounds for that. One more from Zoom.
Which AI would you recommend for doing work on a very large Excel file, and is one better than the other providing standard operating protocols?
Okay, so first one, for a very large Excel file, that is still tricky, right? Because very large Excel file can get up to a lot more than the, let's say, 600 pages of text that Claude has, and similar for ChatGPT. But those are the two. There is in aistudio.google.com, you could use one of their tools that will have up to 2 million tokens context window, and you can click a button there to say like use data analysis, and then it will also write and run Python. But it does get trickier once you have like huge data sets like that.
The average user who has decided that AI is worth $20 a month, where would they get the most bang for their buck?
That is a big question, because I think it might still be ChatGPT, right? But I think Claude is like kind of getting there, and it really depends on a couple of things. One, are you going to use it a lot for voice? So Claude just doesn't have that yet. Like that doesn't seem to be a priority for them. It has a tool that would like take over your whole computer for you and test things, but it does not have a way where you speak to it and it speaks back. Like you can speak to it and it will give you text back, and so that it's kind of clunky. So if you are someone who wants to sort of use that more, then maybe ChatGPT. Although the new Gemini live voice thing is incredibly good as well. So it really depends. If someone are like, if you're very sort of voice savvy, if not, I'm gonna do serious work. Well, like I said, I really like Claude. It just gives high quality answers. In many cases, you'll ask ChatGPT, it probably have this query, ask it to do something, and maybe we'll do it, or maybe we'll just tell you how to do it. Right? Claude is like, I ask it to do something, and it's like, it does it, and then it says, oh, and I assume you would like me to do these things too. And it's just very helpful, right? It's just very high quality. So my only sort of gripe with them right now is I don't think they quite understand the value of getting more users, because there's so few. Now they have captured like a segment, anyone who's like a serious programmer or developer, they will use it, but they don't have, for example, free pro subscription for the rest of the semester for students like ChatGPT does now, or like 10% off like Gemini, or like a free month, and you can get more when you get more students to sign up, which Perplexity has, right? So yes, I think it depends a little bit on your use.
So going to the point about the same question yielding two different answers, could that also be improved by not asking a question like you talked about before and simply saying, please research this for me? Do you think the answers would be more likely to be similar?
Yes, and I have a good example of that. I did, so how many, I forget, we have many people who can't put their hand in the air, but Meta AI is building a giant compute like data center in Louisiana, right? And I did an example which you can find on my LinkedIn, because I wrote a little article about it there, where I had all the tools that could do deep search at the time. I said, like, I want to know everything there's to know about this new Meta AI data center in Louisiana. I like pro and con and how did it happen and how big it's going to be and how many jobs and all these other things. And I got 4 or 5 different reports. I put them into NotebookLM and analyzed the difference. And I found that they agreed on everything except one thing, which was that one of these sources or one of the reports leaned more heavily on one source that claimed there were going to be 2,000 permanent jobs, while all the others leans towards one that's at 300. Right? But even the one that disagreed, if you will, I mean, it was legitimate and it refers to an article where someone made that claim, right? So yes, I think when you ask for more complex things, you are actually more likely to get more similarity, if that's what you want. Quite often what I want is the opposite, I want the different views sort of on it. Because we have to remember that everything with AI, you will never get the exact same answer, right? Because it always picks the next token that is like the most likely, but with a tiny bit of like randomness in it. So you could have asked Gemini twice the same question and not get the exact same, right? Which to me, the way I sort of visualize a little bit in my head is if I write a very basic question that's sort of very open-ended, then the number of probabilities is like even larger, right? But if I narrow it down by saying, look, this is my question, but this is my context, I'm really interested in this, I'm not so interested in that, I'm really curious about this, and then put that into multiple, then I'm sort of narrowing the probabilities, which means it's slightly more likely that they'll agree in the middle. Okay, next question, yes, in back.
I'm actually taking a legal writing class and they say that all of this is really not trustworthy because a lot of this stuff sometimes is made up. And how trustworthy it is, because on the writing class, they said, no, it's even in front of judges, it's not acceptable. If you say, I use AI to give me this answer, that
Yeah.
answer, they're like, no, because some of the information is really not based in real resource.
Yeah, couple of ways to attack. So one, I can say like I have sort of law firms as clients and we're doing stuff that works very well. But I absolutely agree, you cannot go in front of a judge, I'm not the judge, or a lawyer, no, but you cannot go in front of a judge and say like ChatGPT says this, Your Honor, I agree to, yeah. That's not gonna work, but they're very much right about that, but the they're called sort of hallucination rates, like the rates of sort of errors or what people like made up. In the initial versions of these were very high, they're down in like it's. The last one I saw, one of them was Gemini 2.0 had a hallucination rate of 0.3%. So the point is at this point, they're all of them, so you should always use the best model, ideally paying for it. And at that point, they are all significantly more accurate than any human. Right, I mean, error rates for anything done by human, including like typing medical records in, are, 8 to 12% for some of these things. So if you're dealing with an AI and you sort of use it the right way by giving context, having good right, and also using more than one tool and having them check each other's work, then you should be sort of very good. And honestly, legal writing it does incredibly well because there's so much sort of data on it. And these deep research tools are fantastic for legal research because they will go out and find all the case law and sort of bring it back. But you still need to have an actual lawyer who understands things, who can say, oh, that's interesting, let's now go into Westlaw, whatever it is, and like pull the other things so that we can refer it in the right way, right? Yes. We have more questions? Yes?
Actually, it's on top of the first question I asked. You said that it can analyze things. Say you uploaded it, newspaper coverage of a particular controversy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, for example, tell it, what are the positions, what are the arguments for, against, individual, or, and then also correlated with sources, which forces stand for what? And
Yes.
each frequency and all that stuff. Number one. Number two, can you, for example, tell that, it's mostly because of my students I'm asking this.
Mm-hmm.
Take this text and do a rhetorical analysis of it.
Yes. It's very good at both. It can do a rhetorical, any kind of other analysis of text.
Narrative.
Generally, any sort of text analysis, it's really good at. Seeing things from different points of view, it's excellent at. Role play is one of my favorites. Give it, so you be like, look at this thing, and now, okay, you're Hayek, right? And you're some economist on the other side, now discuss this as you would, right? And it will sort of contextualize all that is known about their positions, and then discuss. So however you want, it's very, very good at anything having to do with text and opinions and positions and who holds what and when and where it was said, for example.
So you can upload newspaper articles and then.
Oh, yeah.
It will give you a map of arguments.
Oh, absolutely. And if you have them digital, that's fine. If you don't, take pictures of them, that's fine. I mean, quite often now when I have a bunch of stuff from like web that I want in, it's faster for me to just click Control P, save as PDF, and upload it and have it like machine read it, if you will, into text. than for me to copy and paste the text into a document and save that document and put that up. But for so many of these tools now, for example, NotebookLM, if it's on the web page, I can just give it the URL to that web page and it will scrape it and pull it in like that.
So for what I asked, would you use Cloud or Gemini or?
I would use Claude, unless you have like enormous amounts of text, then I would use NotebookLM. Questions more, we go. Excited to use
I
these
do.
tools mostly?
So I do a lot of PowerPoint presentations.
Uh-huh.
Within that I use images. Which one would be the best to create the images? I just did one yesterday, using
Mhm.
ChatGPT, and I have the paid version of
Yeah.
ChatGPT. And it created some images which were wonderful, but I'm wondering if any of this from it.
So-
Firefly.adobe.com.
Oh, yes, yes, so we do have a
Yeah,
license
available
with
to
Firefly
you.
for Adobe that you can use as Tulane, and if you are a person who's good at using, like, say, Photoshop and these things, that's really good, because you have a lot of different tools. What I use for all of my images here, sort of my series of mosaics of ancient goddesses of AI, is Google's Imagen 3 tool, which I use for free through ImageFX. Like IMAGEFX.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, what is it?
It's an ImageFX. The Google Labs, actually,
Let's see if I can just find it for you so you can see,
there we go. I'm just gonna get lucky. And then we'll generate like that. So image generation, then this one here, ImageFX by Google, I like that one a lot. If I want there to be more text in it, so this is a terrible example, since it does have that, I would use Ideogram. Ideogram.ai, they also have a free version and you can upgrade and see. Well, this one specifically is very good at images with text in. That being said, the new GPT 4.0 from ChatGPT, like the image generation of it, is actually very good at images with text in it. And it's very good at illustrations. It's just I don't really like it for the photo so much, but let's see here. I just used it. That was on here, so.
And don't forget about alt text for your web photos. You can generate the alt text just by dropping in your images on ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah, it is. Why do I log in here? Yeah. That article about the data centers, I have it here. Like this one, I wrote this weekend. I just had a discussion with GPT 4.0 and I wanted images to illustrate an article about AI tools for students, and we went back and forth, but what I liked about it was that it kept the same style of images throughout. You can see this similar looking person sort of in them. And I'm not really an expert in images, but to me, I was like, okay, these are like somewhat related to each other. Or that. Yes.
Like, this is not the tools you discussed, but I wanted to hear your opinion. I've been using Apple stuff for like over a decade. I have tons of notes, emails, reminders. I know Apple Intelligence has been delayed, that big announcement like a couple months ago. But wouldn't that mean like I'm the context window, right? That's what those tools are promising, like Apple Intelligence, or what's your hope for that sort of stuff?
Yeah, Apple has been, I guess sort of shockingly bad at this whole thing. They're more behind than any of it. They're sort of missed the whole boat on not sort of developing any of their own models that are really smart. They use a bunch of others, but they have so many users, and then to them, clearly their priority is just like they never want anyone to get anything wrong. So they just basically lobotomize their models, give you very small, not very smart models, and then they can call on more. I don't know, but there's some saying that there's a potential there where all these LLM models basically become commodities. And then Apple can just pick and choose whatever they want, as long as they have hardware to run them on and some of these things. And at the end of the day, they are the company that has a piece of hardware in the pocket of almost everyone and most of the important people that as these AI tools are getting more and more efficient, can run locally, right? So I mean, I have a bunch of models now that I can run locally on my phone when I'm on a plane, for example, or on my computer without being on the internet, that are significantly smarter and faster than the original ChatGPT. Some of them are now faster and smarter than GPT-4 already, which was the best only like 12 months ago. So these things are sort of rapidly growing, but I'm not really sure about Apple's strategy or lack of strategy in this area. But I'm not an Apple user, so I don't really know enough about these things, except that most of the other tools now have really good APIs where you can connect your information and do whatever it is. Yes.
Do you have a good tool for videos, like video editing, uploading a video and having it just parse out the best parts and?
I think what I would use for specifically the last part of the question, like upload video and have it find out what the best parts are. There's a visual understanding that Google's Gemini models have that seem to be fairly unique combined with the very large context window. So 2 million tokens is almost 2 hours of video. Right? And what it will do is it will view them, but it's gonna do it at maybe like 1 frame every other, whatever it is. Like it's not gonna see everything, but it's enough that it can tell you, especially if it also gets the audio and transcripts, that it can absolutely give good advice on how to edit. Like, oh, you should focus on this, put this scene before that, something like that. And also, so on Saturday, Facebook released Llama 4, their latest model, which also has a 10 million token context window, one of them, and there's something very special about the multimedia part of it. I haven't had time to sort of go deep into it yet, but the thing about Meta when it comes to all these AI things is that it builds amazing models, and I think it has more hardware to run to train them than anyone else. But their strategy seems to be to give it away for free just to make sure OpenAI doesn't get too big and some of these other sort of competitors. It's obviously using it internally and then implementing it in all their tools like their WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook for advertisers and all that. And then they're making them on an open source license so that other developers can build on top of them and connect them, and there's a lot of that happening, but the reason I'm not including them in this one here is that there's really not much there for us consumers. Right? Now you can go to meta.ai in your browser, log in with your Facebook account and use this new Llama 4, and I used it all weekend to test and it looks pretty good. It looks very good actually, and fast and free, but it doesn't have any of those sort of workflow things that I need, like dealing with documents, writing codes, exporting, importing, any of that kind of stuff. It's more for the toy, you can chat with it, it's actually really good at editing images, and some of these things, but it's different. So video is like the hardest part for AI currently, just because of the file sizes and all that, right? There's so many, I have not found anything that I think is amazing. I played around a lot with Sora from OpenAI, sort of making videos. And then there's sort of like, there's always something really impressive about it and then something not. It's basically where image generation was 2 years ago. And be like, this is great, but there's 7 fingers on this person, and it's just not quite there yet, but it's getting there. Okay, we have time for one more question from Zoom or the room, and if not, I just remind everyone that we have this Tech Week forum here, and to email me any questions you might have for yourself or others about this, then please remind your students to take the AI survey, and thank you very much.